Hey guys, it's your friendly baker next door. No, but seriously. Welcome guys, Baker here, with another guide, and this time we're gonna look at our Eye of Winter Occultist, which I actually started last league, but due to the defenses or defensive layers being a bit off last league, I definitely wanted to revisit it this time. Oh, what's Corgi doing? Hey there, Corgi. Either way, this time we have more options for defensive layers, especially since Determination has flat armor added, which gives a huge boost in survivability to the build. And since I'm playing hardcore, it feels so much nicer to play it this league. Let's dive into it. Let's look at the leveling setup first. So basically what I used to level this build with was Spellslinger. As soon as possible, like at level 28 you get Eye of Winter. Before I was just using Freezing Pulse with, you know, a Karui ward for extra proj speed and volley, LMP, whatever you can slap on Freezing Pulse, added cold to, you know, have the damage up there, especially in a trade league, or, you know, since it's not your first character, you have Tabula Rasa and so on, to make use of it and make it actually strong for the first 28 levels. After that, we get Spellslinger at 24 and Eye of Winter at 28. It still feels kind of a bit weak until we can get Hydrosphere at level 34 in Act 4. But nevertheless, I started Spellslinging Eye of Winter. Basically, I ran Herald of Ice, Spellslinger with Eye of Winter, added cold damage, cold penetration, and increased critical strikes. I would even argue that this is better for cold pen. If you're just using a 4-link especially, you might want to skip cold pen for increased critical strikes. And the higher you level Spellslinger, the less the reservation gets, the more gems you can fit in. Keep them in mind, ideally buy all of them, and then, you know, swap around with the mana reservation until you can run all of those. On the passive tree as well, you might want to go first for the reservation nodes here and here, and after that you're basically sorted for the leveling. As soon as we're 34, we're gonna add Hydrosphere with Onslaught and Power Charge on crit, just to generate some power charges and get Onslaught consistently. It works really well actually with Hydrosphere, so I enjoyed this setup a lot. If you don't know what Spellslinger does, just a short summary, it's basically a trigger spell that triggers all the spells linked to it by reserving mana, and you trigger them by using any wand attack. So basically you could attack with the default attack, with this wand attack, and you would trigger all the Spellslinger spells. Ideally you don't want to do that though, but use Frenzy to generate frenzy charges, get maybe Culling Strike on top, and faster attacks is what I used. So that's the basic leveling setup. I don't have a real POB for it because I kind of didn't save the one I used for leveling. It was scuffed and just thrown together, you know, just grabbed a few life nodes here and there. I remember having Snowforged, going in here, getting the life here, getting the reservation, the life here, also discipline and training. I think I even made it into the Cyan life wheel until level 70. And yeah, since I basically had my low life setup already prepared, I didn't have to focus on leveling or my life based build too much. I kind of transitioned at like 70 or 72 into low life directly. The basics you need to go low life are actually Prism Guardian, Presence of Chayula, Shavronnes Wrappings, and ideally you want to have a Snake Pit and a Void Battery. You could use a rare wand with like plus skill gems or cast speed, crit chance, crit multiplier, spell damage, cold damage, all like a combination of all those. But as soon as you reach like 6-7 power charges, you definitely want to have a Void Battery because it usually suppresses the crit chance and the spell damage of a rare wand. Shavs is definitely mandatory to go low life. since chaos damage does not bypass your energy shield, which would straight up kill us at 87 life. So instead, chaos damage just goes straight to our energy shield, and we can deal with it like with any other damage type. Prism Guardian is a great unique early on, especially because it gives us 37 all res dex, which we're starving for, and it allows us to run 3 50% auras on our life pool if you get the right reservation nodes and mana efficiency, or rather life efficiency nodes. Presence of Chayula, really great unique, 60 chaos res. With Catalyst you can boost this up to 72 chaos res, or boost it with either fertile life essences or defense essences to gain even more energy shield from your life pool. It's a random drop, at least the base amulet, and it needs to be upgraded with the Blessing of Chayula to achieve the presence of Chayula. It helps us a lot because it cannot be stunned, which is a problem because the stuns are always based off your life pool normally. So in case you don't have any other uniques or any other nodes on your tree for it, and it allows us to drop Vile Bastion, which usually is used on an Occultist early on to cannot be stunned, especially if you're hybrid. Okay. Once you obtained those uniques, the rest of the gearing is pretty straightforward. You want really high energy shield gloves with intelligence, ideally, to gain even more energy shield. Don't forget, intelligence, like 5 intelligence, gives you 1% maximum energy shield. So the more int you stack, the better. Syntrack, especially this league, are arguably one of the best energy shield boots you can get, especially for this build because we need the dex, we need the int. They have high energy shield, and on top they have a lot of evasion, which first of all is obviously helping our evasion pool for our ghost dance, but with this mastery node you also convert your evasion on your boots into energy shield. So it's probably one of the best choices, and it's really hard to replace unless you go with a double elevated or awakened boots later on that we can talk about, and I'll drop in the POB for you to look at. Snake Pit is a really important unique as well because it allows us to get chain easily on this build without having to use this chain gem, which has like a lot of benefits. First of all, it's kind of like a 7 link. And second of all, chain has a really high mana multiplier, which will drive our costs even higher. This way we're allowed to use inspiration instead. Okay, the helmet, high energy shield, high int as always, if possible as much res as possible, and then on top you want to have reservation for one of the big auras. In my case I have haste on this helmet. Ideally you want to have either hatred, grace, determination, or zealotry, because I might swap haste for zealotry and just run Val haste instead. So that is a swap that I'm gonna do. So come by my stream and check it out. The next few days you'll see me either choosing zealotry or haste. I'm not 100% sure yet. Ideally you want a warlord helmet, so you can roll the +1 maximum power charge on it. At the time where I got this helmet and all this gear, was kind of in a league start scenario, so there were no good warlord bases, and I luckily got this enchant in my first Uber lab actually that I ran on this character, so I stuck with it for now. For the belt, that's actually the most expensive piece so far on my gear. It's a crystal belt. Eye level 85, you need 82 plus Crusader crystal belt to be able to roll the highest tier % energy shield. On top I've got some chaos res, some flat energy shield, and armor, which is a really nice belt actually. I crafted strength and int because we're starving for strength, and int as always gives us max ES. The ring is actually a really big build enabler, or it makes the build feel so much nicer once you get a Frostbite on hit ring, because it allows us to have the Occultist explosions all the time. And basically, no matter if we use our Hydrosphere, where I usually had my Hex Touch set up with Frostbite, so you can just use your Eye of Winter and clear the packs and just have the explosions everywhere. The Occultist explosions. That concludes our gear. For the flasks, I would just suggest a Rumis as the only unique flask. Further, a movement speed Quicksilver, Jade Flask with immune to Ignite, because we have the shock immunity through our Tempest Shield. Eternal Mana Flask with Enduring. There's like almost no way around it. You could run Clarity, but then you have to drop an aura for it. For me, this was a solid choice because I could still run my Jade and my Granite Flask for defenses and my Diamond Flask for some extra crit chance. So it's definitely not a bad option. For the gem setup, I'm using Eye of Winter linked to increased critical strike support. It's one of the strongest links for the base crit strike chance. And on top you get some % increased crit strike chance. Then I'm using critical strike multiplier and inspiration, which I might be dropping soon for power charge on crit, because power charge on crit gives us additional chance to gain power charges, increase critical strike chance, and more importantly, more damage per power charge. So especially with our 8 or soon 9 power charges, this will be a big damage boost. Further, we're using added cold damage and cold penetration on the Eye of Winter setup. For the Hydrosphere setup, I'm using Hydrosphere linked to Arcane Surge, power charge on crit because I don't have it here, and Onslaught for some really consistent Onslaught. Even on bosses you have it almost up all the time. For utility, I'm using Flame Dash and Frost Shield. If you don't have a Curse on Hit ring, you want Sniper's Mark for bosses. It does insane damage, so I'm considering right now to get the Anoint for double Curse, so I can have Sniper's Mark and Frostbite on bosses. Further, we're using a cast when damage taken setup with Immortal Call and Enfeeble Curse on hit. Then I'm using Herald of Ice, Grace for some flat evasion and % evasion, Determination, same, flat armor, % armor, Hatred for more cold damage, Tempest Shield for shock immunity, and Spell Block, because we don't have Spell Suppress on this build, so I at least want to have some Spell Block on top. Discipline, obviously, Vaal Discipline, which acts as a flask for us, so if you press it, you recharge your energy shield really fast. Defiance Banner for some extra armor evasion, and especially for nearby enemies have reduced critical strike chance, so that will help us to get crit less. And that's about the links in this setup. I might swap out Haste for Zealotry. As I mentioned before, you can run whichever you feel better. Zealotry adds some nice defensive layer on top. I just really like the movement speed for mapping. But I would definitely keep on running Vaal Haste. For the Ascendancy, we picked Occultist, which is one of my favorite classes in the game in general. For leveling, or first off, I usually pick Void Beacon, especially if we have a cold spell or a chaos spell for leveling. As the second Ascendancy, I usually pick Profane Bloom for the Curse Explosions or Occultist Explosions. And your hexes can affect hexproof enemies, which is really nice, especially on some bosses and hexproof packs. Later on, you'll pick Frigid Wake in Merciless Lab, and in Uber Lab you will pick Forbidden Power or Wild Bastion if you're still not transitioned fully into low life and don't have the presence of Chayula, for example, in SSF. You could also pick Malediction for some reduced damage taken and increased damage dealt to mobs, and for the easy second curse if you don't have a void battery, for example. But this would be the ideal setup for my or our build here. For the passives, they're pretty straightforward. You go out in the witch tree through the int nodes, pick up arcane focus. In general, you just try to pick up as much energy shield as possible. I might drop foresight soon. I still have it in because before I had better gear, and especially like my belt and so on, I picked a few more of those energy shield nodes, so it's a really nice option to get more energy shield if you need it. The better gear you get, the further you are in endgame, the less of the energy shield nodes you will need, and you might be able to drop all these and pick up like some other nodes instead. For the really important nodes here that I want to showcase are Pain Attunement. Obviously, as low life, it gives you 30% more spell damage, which is really nice. On top, we want to have Doomcast. It gives a lot of crit chance and crit multi. And we need Influence Wheel with the Life Reservation Mastery that allows us to run 3 50% auras on our life. Further, we're taking Serenity with the Mana Reservation Efficiency. And what I'm trying right now is actually Divine Shield. Not really sure if it helps a lot with the physical damage prevented from hits. Is regened as Energy Shield, but it allowed us to get Sanctum of Thought. So once I go more into clusters, I might have to drop this whole part here. We'll see how the survivability plays out in the end. Further, I'm taking some block here. I'm taking Disciple of the Forbidden, which is a really strong node early on, especially because it gives a lot of crit multi, crit chance, and additional damage per power charge and power charge on kill. So you could actually skip out on the power charge on crit support early on. For the cluster, we want to have Thaumophage, Conjured Wall, and Mage Hunter. Conjured Wall and Mage Hunter give us spell block. Thaumophage gives us some leech. I'm not going for medium clusters. I'm just gonna use ideally 2 of those large clusters. Endgame probably, but even 1 will be nice enough. For the big survivability nodes, I took Soul Thief. Gives us good evasion rating, good energy shield, and recover 2 energy shield on kill, which is huge for clear. We will barely drop below max energy shield during maps, and if we do, we're full within seconds. But what this allows us to do as well is get the energy shield per evasion on boots, which is really nice if you have Syntrax. Else, it really helps us with Ghost Dance, because Ghost Dance basically doesn't allow us to recover energy shield above our evasion rating. So if you have 5,000 evasion, you would never get more energy shield than 5,000 here. But you get up to 3 Ghost Shrouds when hit. And when you lose the Ghost Shrouds, you recover 3% of your evasion rating per second. What Ghost Shrouds actually do is they give us 3% reduced damage taken per Ghost Shroud, so up to 9% reduced damage taken. On top of it, we have to go here anyways to pick up all the power charges. As you see, I picked up all the power charges possible on the tree, which makes us end up at like 8 power charges with a Void Battery, 9 power charges with the Warlord Helmet, which is basically max without any corruption shenanigans and similar. At the moment, I still have quite a lot of strength nodes that I have to spec into. These I have actually for 2 reasons, for strength and dex and the elemental resistances. So I hope to drop them soon as I get that on our jewels or clusters. For the jewels, in this case I went with stats again, but usually you want something like this jewel with like crit multiplier, stats, energy shield, more multi, like you can get up to a 3-time multi jewel with energy shield, for example. Okay. 3 is pretty straightforward. I hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, you see everything in the PoE. For the playstyle, what we will do on this character is basically just zoom through the maps, use our Eye of Winter to kill packs, and the Occultist explosions will usually take care of everything and explode the whole pack. Clear pretty well on bosses or on bigger rares or uniques during a map. You want to position your Hydrosphere behind the target ideally. Stay away as far as possible because our projectiles deal more damage the further away they travel. So ideally you don't want to like shotgun like this, but rather like further away, have your Hydrosphere behind the boss and hit the boss with your projectiles. The projectiles also hit the Hydrosphere, chain off of it into the boss. The Hydrosphere at the same time pulsates and hits the boss as you see here. And that way you will shotgun him down quite fast. So as you can already imagine, it might be a bit iffy in the beginning especially, or until you have, you know, the style, the play style down. It might be a bit hard, and especially hard on bosses that move a lot. But for those cases, you can just move as well and just use your Eye of Winter from all the positions. And it hits in a quite big circle as you see all those projectiles flying. So it should work out once you have a lot of damage. As a bonus, I wanted to explain fast how I crafted my Shavronnes wrappings. It's a really good one because it gives us +2 to our Eye of Winter. Basically, it's quite easy to obtain. You need a bit of patience. You just pick up all the Occultist vestment that you get. Ideally 4 or 5 socket them and then corrupt them. Then I saved all the good corruptions that I got, like +1 to all gems, or in this case the +2 to projectile gems, and used a mythic orb, which is a new tainted currency. And what it does is it either removes the item, like in the Alva Temple, in the Double Corruption Temple, or the second chance, it turns the base into a unique of that base. Since Shavs is the only unique Occultist vestment, it's quite easy. So if you hit the unique roll, you got a Shavs guaranteed. And once you have it, let's say with a 4 socket Shavs, you can just continue spamming either Tainted Armor Scraps to get the quality a bit higher, and then Jeweler Orbs. Tainted Jeweler Orbs are either adding a socket or removing one. It's like a 50-50 chance. Like there's nothing in between, it's like 50-50. So if you have 4 sockets, you have either the chance to get 3 or the chance to get 5. You do that up to 6 sockets. Ideally, if you drop below 4 sockets, you want to consider crafting the sockets with the crafting bench up to 4 again and try from there up. Once you have the 6 sockets achieved, the tainted fusings come in. So you craft a 4-link with 5 fusings and 5 Valorbs, since it's a corrupted item. Use a tainted fusing, hope to get the 5-link. It's again 50-50. And then use another one to get the 6-link. It's pretty straightforward. For me, it worked first try. It might take you a few fusings, but in Trade League they're not that expensive. And in SSF, it's not that hard to farm them, actually. So that lets you have proper Shavs in this league. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. It will help me do more content in the future and shows me what you like and don't like. If you have any opinions or comments you want to share, drop them in the comment section below, or come to my stream at twitch.tv/baker. Thank you very much, and happy looting. See you next time. Bye bye.